The ferry's engine hummed softly as it cut through Mobile Bay, carrying me toward Dauphin Island under a sky streaked with the pinks and golds of dawn. I leaned against the railing, the salt breeze tugging at my hair, and watched the horizon where the island emerged like a mirage, low, green, and fringed with white sand. It was my first visit to Alabama's Gulf Coast, a trip born of a restless need to escape the city's clamor and find a place where the world felt quieter, softer. Dauphin Island, with its promise of empty beaches and whispering pines, felt like the answer. A few miles away, on the mainland, Bon Secours National Wildlife Refuge waited, its marshes and dunes a sanctuary for creatures and wanderers alike. These two places, bound by the Gulf's rhythm, offered a peace that didn't just settle the mind but cradled the soul. As the ferry docked, I stepped onto the island, ready to lose myself in its stillness and discover the stories etched in its sands. Dauphin Island is a slender ribbon of land, 14 miles long and barely a mile wide, stretched between the Gulf of Mexico and Mobile Bay like a bridge between worlds. Its nickname, the Sunset Capital of Alabama, isn't just marketing. It's a truth you feel when you stand on West End Beach at dusk, watching the sun melt into the sea, leaving a trail of fire across the water. I arrived in early April, when the island was waking from its winter quiet but hadn't yet been claimed by summer crowds. The air smelled of salt and magnolia, and the only sound were the waves' gentle churn and the occasional squawk of a gull. With just 1,200 residents, the island moves at its own pace, unhurried and unbothered, as if it knows the sea will outlast any rush. My first stop was West End Beach, a public stretch of powdery sand where I could walk for miles without seeing another soul. The beach was littered with treasures: smooth shells, bits of driftwood, and the occasional crab scuttling sideways like a tiny fugitive. I sat cross-legged on the sand, letting the tide tickle my toes, and watched a great blue heron stalk the shallows, its movements deliberate, almost meditative. This was why I'd come, for moments where time felt elastic, where the world's demands dissolved into the Gulf's endless pulse. To understand the island's heart, I headed to the Dauphin Island Sea Lab, home to the estuarium, a small aquarium that feels more like a sanctuary than a tourist trap. Inside, tanks glowed with the Gulf's underwater life, seahorses curling their tails around seagrass, stingrays gliding like shadows, and fish in colors that seemed borrowed from a painter's palette. A docent named Amos, a retired shrimper with hands like weathered oak, guided me through. His stories wove the island's past into its present. How it was named in 1707 for the French Dauphin, how it endured hurricanes and pirate raids, how its people still fish the same waters their ancestors did. This island, he said, squinting at a tank of darting minnows, it's tough but gentle. Like the sea itself, I left with a deeper appreciation for the island's resilience, its ability to stand firm against storms yet offer such quiet grace. History buffs will find a kindred spirit in Fort Gaines, a Civil War-era stronghold on the island's eastern tip. Its brick walls, weathered by salt and time, guard the entrance to Mobile Bay. I wandered its ramparts one morning, the Gulf breeze cooling my skin, and explored dim tunnels where soldiers once stood watch. The fort's cannons, rusted but proud, still point seaward, as if expecting Admiral David Farragut's fleet from the 1864 Battle of Mobile Bay. A volunteer guide, a history teacher with a knack for storytelling, recounted Farragut's bold cry, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead," as Union ships braved mines to capture the bay. Standing there, I could almost hear the cannon fire, yet the fort's stillness today feels like a truce with time. It's a place to reflect, to trace history's fingerprints while the waves sing a lullaby below. For nature lovers, the Audubon Bird Sanctuary is Dauphin Island's crown jewel. Spanning 137 acres, it's a haven for migratory birds crossing the Gulf, especially in spring and fall. I rented a bike from a shop near the ferry dock, $10 per day, and pedaled through the sanctuary's trails, where live oaks draped in Spanish moss formed a canopy overhead. The air buzzed with life, warblers chirping, woodpeckers drumming, and the occasional rustle of a squirrel in the underbrush. On the Gallard Lake Trail, a boardwalk led me over a marsh where an alligator lounged, its eyes like dark marbles in the water. I paused to watch a scarlet tanager, its red feathers a burst of flame against the green, and felt a quiet reverence. The sanctuary's magic lies in its balance. It's wild yet accessible, a place where you can lose yourself without getting lost. One evening, I joined a small group for a sunset kayak tour, $40 per person, booked through a local outfitter. We paddled along the bay side, where the water was calm and the skyline glowed amber. Dolphins surfaced nearby, their fins slicing the surface, and our guide, a lifelong islander named Sarah, shared tales of growing up here, fishing with her grandfather, weathering Hurricane Katrina, rebuilding with neighbors who felt like family. Her stories made the island feel intimate, a community bound by the sea's ebb and flow. As we glided back to shore, the stars began to prick the sky, and I understood why people returned to Dauphin Island, year after year, seeking its quiet embrace. Practical tips for Dauphin Island. The Mobile Bay Ferry from Fort Morgan is the most scenic route, a 40-minute ride costing $20 for a car and driver as of 2025. Spring, March, May, and fall, September, November, offer mild weather and fewer visitors. Summer brings warmth but also crowds. Accommodations include beach cottages, Airbnb/VRBO, $100-$200/night. The Dauphin Island Harbor House, $150 per night, or camping at Dauphin Island Campground, $35/night. Dining options are delightfully local. Skinner's Seafood serves fresh shrimp and oysters, while the Isle Dauphine Golf Club offers burgers with Gulf views. Bring binoculars for bird watching, sunscreen for beach days, and a journal to capture the island's spell. Cell service can be patchy, so download maps offline. For budget travelers, pack a picnic and stick to free attractions like the beaches and sanctuaries. A 20-minute drive from Dauphin Island, across the bridge to the mainland, lies Bon Secours National Wildlife Refuge, a 7,000-acre mosaic of dunes, marshes, and pine forests. Its name, meaning safe harbor in French, felt like a promise as I stepped onto the Pine Beach Trail, a 2-mile path to the Gulf. The trail began under a canopy of slash pines, their needles softening my steps, and wound past a lagoon where a great egret stood mirrored in still water. The air hummed with cicadas and the faint salt tang of the Gulf, a reminder of the sea just beyond the dunes. I'd come here after hearing a birder in Gulf Shores rave about Bon Secours solitude, and as I walked, the world's noise fell away, replaced by the refuge's quiet pulse. Bon Secours is a sanctuary for more than just humans. Established in 1980, it protects endangered species like the Alabama beach mouse, a tiny creature that scurries through the dunes, and loggerhead sea turtles that nest here in summer. I visited in late spring, hoping to spot turtle tracks, but even without them, the refuge felt alive. The Jeff Friend Trail, a 1-mile, wheelchair-accessible loop, became my morning ritual. It weaves through marshes where red-winged blackbirds flitted, their calls sharp against the silence. I sat on a bench one evening, watching the sunset turn the marsh grass to gold, and felt time slow, as if the refuge existed outside the calendar's reach for a longer adventure. The 4-mile Gator Lake Trail links the beach to inland lakes, offering chances to spot alligators, otters, or even a bobcat if you're lucky. I hiked it one afternoon, my boots sinking slightly in the sandy soil, and paused at Gator Lake, where ripples hinted at something below. No alligators appeared, but the possibility kept my senses sharp. The trail's endpoint at the Gulf was a reward in itself. A wide, empty beach where waves lapped gently and sandpipers darted along the shore. I lay on my back, staring at clouds drifting like thoughts, and let the refuge's peace wash over me. Bon Secour's history adds depth to its beauty. Long before it was a refuge, these lands were home to Native American tribes like the Creek and Choctaw, who fished the bays and gathered oysters. A ranger I met at the visitor kiosk shared stories of the area's past, how pirates once used these shores as hideouts, how fishing villages thrived on the oyster trade before industrialization shifted the coast's rhythm. Today, Bon Secour feels untouched, its trails free of souvenir shops or paved lots. I met a local artist painting near the Centennial Trail, her canvas capturing the dune's curves under a stormy sky. "This place," she said, brushing sand from her palette. "It's where I come to breathe." Her words stayed with me. A reminder that Bon Secour is as much a refuge for the spirit as for the creatures it protects. One morning, I joined a guided birding walk, free, offered seasonally by the refuge staff. Our group, a mix of retirees and young families, moved quietly along the Pine Beach Trail, led by a ranger named Clara, who pointed out a protonotary warbler, its yellow plumage glowing like a tiny sun. She explained how Bon Secour is a critical stopover for migratory birds, offering food and rest after their Gulf crossing. We stood in silence, watching the warbler flit through the pines, and I felt a connection to something larger. A cycle of movement and survival that had played out here for centuries. Practical tips for Bon Secour. The refuge is free, open sunrise to sunset, with parking at trailheads. Visit in early morning or late afternoon to avoid summer heat. March, May, and October, November are ideal for wildlife and cooler weather. Bring water, bug spray, and sturdy shoes for sandy trails. No on-site facilities mean planning for restrooms and Gulf Shores, a 10-minute drive away. For lodging, Gulf Shores offers hotels, $80 to $150 per night, or Gulf State Park's campground, $40 per night. Dine at the Tin Top restaurant in Bon Secour Village for crab claws and hush puppies, or try Lulu's in Gulf Shores for a family-friendly vibe. Check tide schedules for beach access, as high tides can cover trails. Volunteer-led turtle walks in summer, $15, booked through the refuge, offer a chance to learn about conservation efforts. Dauphin Island and Bon Secour are more than places on a map. They're invitations to pause, to listen, to feel the Gulf's timeless rhythm. On my last day, I returned to Dauphin Island's West End beach, with the sun dipped low, casting a bronze glow over the water. A family nearby hunted for shells, their laughter blending with the waves, and I thought of the stories I collected. Amos's tales at the estuarium, the fort's echoes of war, Sarah's kayak-borne memories. In Bon Secour, I remembered Clara's warbler, the artist's dunes, the marsh's golden hush. These places, so close yet distinct, share a gift. They offer peace not just in their silence, but in their stories, in the way they invite you to become part of them. Alabama's coast is a tapestry of resilience and serenity. Dauphin Island carries the scars of storms and battles, yet its beaches stretch wide and welcoming, offering solitude without loneliness. Bon Secour, with its protected wilds, feels like a secret shared only with those who tread lightly. Together, they remind you that tranquility isn't just the absence of noise, but the presence of something deeper, a connection to the land, the sea, the past, that if you visit, come with time to spare. Walk Dauphin Island's beaches at dawn, when the light is soft and the sand is cool. Hike Bon Secour's trails at dusk, when the marsh glows and the stars begin to wink. Eat shrimp fresh from the Gulf at a weathered dockside shack. Talk to locals. They'll tell you stories of hurricanes, harvests, and home. Bring a sketchbook, a camera, or just your senses, and let these places weave their spell. They'll leave you quieter, fuller, ready to carry their peace back to the world. As the ferry docked at Dauphin Island, I clutched my journal, its pages already smudged with salt and sand. I'd named her Clara, not the ranger I'd meet later, but my imaginary companion for this journey, a weary teacher from Birmingham seeking solace after a year of too many deadlines and too little quiet. In my mind, Clara stepped onto the island with a sigh, her shoulders loosening as the Gulf's breeze swept away the city's weight. She was my lens, her story a way to see this place anew, and as I walked the island streets, I let her guide me, her fictional footsteps mingling with my own. Dauphin Island and, later, Bon Secours National Wildlife Refuge became more than destinations. They were chapters in Clara's quest for peace, and mine too. Dauphin Island feels like a place where time has made a pact with the sea, agreeing to move slowly. Its 14 miles of sandy shores and maritime forests hold stories older than the lighthouses that dot the Gulf Coast. Clara, in my journal, wandered West End Beach at dawn, her bare feet sinking into sand so soft it felt like walking on clouds. She wrote of finding a conch shell, its spiral worn smooth by waves, and holding it to her ear, half expecting it to whisper the island's secrets. I followed her lead, picking up a shell myself, and though it offered only the ocean's hum, I felt the island's history stirring around me. Beyond the beaches, Dauphin Island's past is a tapestry of resilience. The island was first home to the Mobile and other Native American tribes, who fished these waters and harvested oysters centuries before French explorers arrived in 1699. They named it Ile Dauphine, after the heir to Louis XIV, a nod to a far-off crown that meant little to the tides. Clara imagined those early inhabitants, their canoes gliding through the bay, their lives woven into the seasons. I learned more at the Indian Shell Mound Park, a lesser-known site near the Audubon Bird Sanctuary. The mound, built by Native Americans over centuries, is a testament to their presence, layered with oyster shells and artifacts. I walked its quiet trails, where live oaks arched overhead, and felt a reverence for the hands that shaped this place long before forts or ferries. Pirates, too, left their mark. In the 1700s, Dauphin Island was a haven for privateers and smugglers, who hid in its coves to evade Spanish and British ships. At Fort Gaines, I lingered in the museum, where faded maps and rusted cutlasses hinted at those lawless days. A plaque described how pirate Jean Lafitte once roamed these waters, his ships slipping through Mobile Bay under cover of night. Clara, in her journal, fancied herself a pirate's lookout, scanning the horizon from the fort's ramparts. I climbed those same ramparts, the gulf stretching endless before me, and imagined sails against the sky. The fort's Civil War history, its role in the Battle of Mobile Bay, feels more documented, but the pirate tales add a wilder, almost mythic layer to the island's calm. For Clara, the Audubon Bird Sanctuary was a revelation. She'd never been a birder, but the sanctuary's 137 acres of forest and marsh turned her into one. I biked the Swamp Trail, a 1.5-mile loop, and stopped at a boardwalk overlooking Gallard Lake. A roseate spoonbill, its pink wings glowing in the morning light, waited nearby, and I pictured Clara sketching it, her pencil capturing the curve of its bill. The sanctuary is a crossroads for over 300 bird species, from warblers to ospreys, especially during spring, April, May. In fall, September, October, migrations. I met a birder named Tom, a snowbird from Michigan, who showed me how to spot a painted bunting through his binoculars. This place, he said, it's where birds come to rest, and so do we. Clara would have agreed, her journal filling with notes on colors and calls she'd never noticed before point one afternoon. I joined a fishing charter, $50 per hour, booked through Dauphin Island Marina, a nod to the island's lifeblood. Our captain, a third-generation islander named Mike, regaled us with stories of shrimping in the 80s, when the Gulf was kinder to small boats. We cast lines for redfish and speckled trout, the boat rocking gently in the bay. Clara, in my mind, caught her first fish, laughing as it flopped on the deck. Mike's tales turned to hurricanes, Katrina in 2005, Ivan in 2004, storms that reshaped the island but never broke its spirit. "We rebuild," he said, tossing a fish back. "Always do." That resilience, woven into the island's fabric, made its peacefulness feel earned, not accidental. Beyond the ferry, $20 car/driver, $6 per passenger. You could drive by the Gordon Persons Bridge from the mainland, though it's less romantic. The island has a grocery store, ship and shore, for essentials, but stock up in mobile for variety. For unique experiences, try Sunset Sail, $60 per person through local outfitters. Or a photography workshop, seasonal, $100. Check Dauphin Island Chamber of Commerce. Families can enjoy the estuarium's touch tank, $7 per adult, $4 per child, where kids can pet starfish. Accessibility notes: West End Beach and the sanctuary's main trails are flat, but sandy. Fort Gaines has some uneven steps. Budget travelers can camp at Dauphin Island Campground, $35 per night, and cook meals at public grills. Check for events like the Alabama Coastal Bird Fest, October, $25 for guided tours. For birding enthusiasts, driving from Dauphin Island to Bon Secours National Wildlife Refuge, I crossed the bridge to the mainland, the Gulf sparkle fading into the rear view. Clara, in her journal, described the transition as entering a different kind of quiet. Not the open expanse of the island, but a tucked-away wilderness where the land itself seemed to breathe. Bon Secours' 7,000 acres unfold like a secret, its dunes, marshes, and forests a haven for creatures and seekers alike. I started on the Pine Beach Trail, a 2-mile trek to the Gulf, where pine needles cushioned my steps and the air smelled of resin and salt. A red-tailed hawk circled above, its cry piercing the silence, and I imagined Clara pausing to watch, her city-worn edges softening. Bon Secours' mission is conservation, protecting species like the Alabama beach mouse, whose tiny tracks crisscross the dunes, and sea turtles that nest from May to August. I attended a free turtle conservation talk, offered monthly in the summer, where a volunteer named Rachel explained how volunteers patrol beaches at dawn, marking nests to protect them from predators and careless feet. Clara, I wrote, volunteered one morning, her hands dusting sand from a nest site, feeling part of something ancient. I didn't see a turtle, but the idea of their slow, deliberate journey to these shores added a layer of reverence to my hike. The refuge's Centennial Trail, a 2.5-mile loop, offered a different perspective. It winds through maritime forest, where palmettos rustled and dragonflies hovered like tiny helicopters. I sat by a pond, watching an alligator's snout break the surface, its eyes glinting like polished stones. Clara sketched it, her journal noting the way the water rippled around it, a reminder that even in stillness, life pulses. The trail's solitude was profound. I passed only one other hiker, a retiree from Mobile who came weekly to clear his head. Bon Secours' lack of amenities, no cafes, no gift shops, enhances its purity. It's a place to be, not to do. Historically, Bon Secours is as layered as Dauphin Island. The creek and Choctaw once thrived here, their middens shell piles, still visible in places, evidence of feasts that sustained them. In the 18th century, French settlers named the area for its safe harbor, a refuge for ships dodging storms. Pirates, too, found shelter here, their legends lingering in local lore. I met a ranger, Clara, the real one, who shared tales of the oyster trade that once defined the village of Bon Secours. "Folks still oyster here," she said, pointing to a nearby bayou. "It's hard work, but it's who we are." Her words echoed in my journal, where the fictional Clara imagined shucking oysters with locals, her hands learning their rhythm. For adventure, I kayaked Little Lagoon, adjacent to the refuge, $30 for a half-day rental from Gulf Shores Outfitters. The water was glass smooth, reflecting clouds and the occasional leap of a mullet. Clara, I wrote, paddled alone, her thoughts untangling with each stroke. A guided kayak tour, $45, offered seasonally, could add wildlife spotting, otters, herons, maybe a manatee in warmer months. Back on land, I joined a photography walk, $20, led by a local artist, learning to frame the dunes' curves against the sky's expanse. The refuge's beauty is subtle, demanding patience, but it rewards those who linger. More practical tips for Bon Secours. The refuge is free, with parking at trailheads, Pine Beach, Jeff Friend, Centennial. Trails are flat but can be sandy. The Jeff Friend Trail is ADA accessible. Summer heat can be intense, so visit at dawn or dusk. Bring water and insect repellent. Gulf Shores, 10 minutes away, has lodging, hotels $80 to $150 per night, Airbnb $100/night, and dining. Try King Neptune's for seafood platters, $15. For budget travelers, pack snacks and use Gulf State Park's free picnic areas. Check the refuge's website for events like full moon hikes, free, quarterly, or turtle talks. Accessibility note: sandy trails may challenge wheelchairs, but boardwalks are navigable. Spring and fall are best for birding, summer for turtle season. Dauphin Island and Bon Secours are threads in Alabama's coastal tapestry, each distinct yet woven together by the Gulf's rhythm. Clara, my journal's traveler, found peace in their contrasts. The island's open beaches, where she could see forever, and the refuge's hidden trails, where she felt tucked away. On my final evening, I stood on Dauphin Island's East End beach, near Fort Gaines, watching the sky turn violet. A fisherman cast his net nearby, his silhouette a quiet poem against the waves. In Bon Secours, I'd sat by Gator Lake at dusk, the marsh aglow, feeling the land's pulse under my feet. These places carry Alabama's soul. Its history of tribes and pirates, its resilience through storms, its gift of stillness. Dauphin Island's beaches and forts tell of survival. Bon Secours' wilds speak of preservation. Together, they offer a peace that's both vast and intimate, a chance to hear the Gulf stories and add your own. Clara left her journal full, her heart lighter. I left with memories of sand between my toes, of birdsong and oyster shells, of a coast that welcomed me like an old friend. Final practical notes. Plan a 3 to 5 day trip to savor both. Start with Dauphin Island. Ferry in, explore the sanctuary and fort, kayak the bay. Then drive to Bon Secours for trail hikes and turtle talks. Budget travelers can camp, picnic, and stick to free sites, beaches, refuge trails. Total costs: $200 to $400 for lodging, $50 to $100 for activities, $50 to $100 for meals, per person, 3 days. Check weather for hurricanes, June-November, and tides for beach access. Locals recommend early mornings for solitude and cooler temperatures. The road to Little River Canyon National Preserve wound through Alabama's northeastern hills, where the Appalachian foothills rose like gentle giants against a late April sky. I gripped the steering wheel, feeling the hum of the pavement beneath me. But in my mind, it was Clara driving, a Birmingham teacher who traded her lesson plans for a week of quiet, her journal open on the passenger seat. She'd written of needing a place where the world felt bigger than her worries. And as the canyon's rim came into view, a chasm of green and stone carved by the little river, I knew she'd found it. Later, in the northwest corner of the state, Dismal's Canyon waited, a hidden gorge where glowing worms lit the night like stars fallen to earth. These two canyons, so different yet bound by their wild beauty, were Alabama's gift to those seeking solace in nature's embrace. As I parked at the canyon's edge, Clara's words echoed in my head. Here, I can breathe. Little River Canyon, often called the Grand Canyon of the East, is a 12-mile scar in the earth, carved by the Little River as it tumbles from Lookout Mountain. Spanning over 15,000 acres in DeKalb County, it's one of Alabama's most dramatic landscapes, with cliffs plunging up to 600 feet and waterfalls that roar after spring rains. Clara, in my journal, arrived at the Canyon Rim Drive, an 11-mile scenic route, and stepped out to a vista that stole her breath. The river glinted far below, a silver thread weaving through forests of pine and hardwood, while hawks soared on thermals above. I stood at the same overlook, Everhart Point, feeling the vastness of the canyon stretch before me, its silence broken only by the wind's low moan and the river's distant rush. My first hike was to Little River Falls, a 45-foot cascade just off the main road, AL 35. The trail, a short 0.5-mile walk, was accessible yet wild, with wildflowers, purple coneflowers, and yellow coreopsis dotting the path. Clara sat on a boulder, sketching the falls as mist rose from the rocks below, her journal capturing the way the water seemed to sing. I lingered there, too, the spray cooling my face, and watched kayakers paddle the river's rapids, their shouts faint against the fall's roar. The falls are a gateway to the preserve, a place where you feel nature's power and peace in equal measure. For a deeper adventure, I tackled the Canyon Mouth Trail, a 2-mile round trip to the river's edge. The path descended through oak and hickory, the air thick with the scent of damp earth. Clara, I imagine, paused to touch a moss-covered rock, her fingers tracing its cool surface as if it held the canyon's secrets. At the trail's end, I found a sandy beach where the river slowed, inviting me to wade in its chilly waters. I spotted a river otter slipping through the current, its playful dive a reminder that this place belongs to the wild. The trail is moderate, with some steep sections, but the reward, a quiet riverside moment, is worth every step. The canyon's history is as rugged as its terrain. Long before it became a national preserve in 1992, the area was home to the Cherokee, who hunted and fished along the river. Their trails crisscrossed Lookout Mountain, and some say their spirits linger in the canyon's mists. I learned this from a park ranger, Lena, at the Little River Canyon Visitor Center, a small hub near the falls. She shared stories of the Cherokee's forced removal in the 1830s, the trail of tears that passed near these hills, and how the land still holds their memory. Clara, in her journal, wrote of walking lightly, as if honoring those who came before. The visitor center also displays artifacts, arrowheads, pottery shards, that ground the canyon's beauty in its ancient roots. For thrill seekers, Little River Canyon is a playground. The river's Class 3 to 4 rapids draw kayakers and whitewater rafters, especially after heavy rains, spring or late fall. I watched a group launch from below the falls, their boats dancing through the churn. Clara, less daring, opted for rock climbing in my story, her hands gripping sandstone under a guide's watchful, $75 for a half-day session, booked through local outfitters like True Adventure Sports. I stuck to hiking, but joined a guided nature walk, $10, offered weekends, where Lena pointed out rare plants like the green pitcher plant, a carnivorous marvel thriving in the canyon's seeps. The preserve's 26 miles of trails range from easy, overlook trail, 0.8 miles, to strenuous, slant rock trail, 3.6 miles, each offering a new angle on the canyon's grandeur. On a evening, I drove to Hawks Glide Overlook, where the sunset painted the canyon in shades of amber and indigo. Clara, I wrote, sat cross-legged, a journal forgotten as she watched the light shift. A local couple nearby shared their picnic, offering me homemade pimento cheese sandwiches and tales of childhood summers swimming in the river. Their warmth, like the canyon itself, felt timeless, a reminder that Alabama's beauty lies as much in its people as its places. Practical tips for Little River Canyon. The preserve is free, open sunrise to sunset, with parking at overlooks and trailheads. The Canyon Rim Drive, AL 176, is a must, with 11 stops like Lynn Overlook and Wolf Creek Overlook. Spring, March, May, and fall, September, November, offer mild weather and vibrant scenery. Summer is lush but hot, winter starkly beautiful. No on-site lodging exists, but Fort Payne, 15 miles away, has hotels, $80 to $120 per night, and Airbnb cabins, $100 per night. Camping is available at DeSoto State Park nearby, $30 per night. Dine at the Strand in Fort Payne for burgers, $12, or Wildflower Cafe in Mentone for farm-to-table salads, $15. Bring water, sturdy boots, and a map. Cell service is spotty. Accessibility note. Paved overlooks are wheelchair-friendly, but trails are rocky. Budget travelers can picnic at free sites and skip paid tours. Check the preserve's website for events like wildflower walks or stargazing nights. Free, seasonal. 2 hours west, in Franklin County, Dismal's Canyon feels like a fairy tale carved into the earth. A private conservancy. It's an 85-acre gorge where sandstone walls rise 100 feet, cloaked in ferns and moss, and a creek winds through, its waters clear as glass. Clara arrived at dusk, her journal describing a place where the world feels secret, like it's whispering just to you. I felt it too, descending the 1.5-mile trail into the canyon, the air cool and heavy with the scent of wet stone. The star attraction here is the Dismalites, bioluminescent glowworms, or Phelia fultoni, that light the canyon walls at night, a rare spectacle in North America. My first stop was the main trail, a 1.5-mile loop along Rainbow Falls, a gentle cascade that spills into a turquoise pool. Clara, I imagine, dipped her toes in the creek, its cold bite waking her senses. The trail is easy but uneven, with wooden bridges and stone steps guiding you past grottos and boulder formations. I paused at the Weeping Bluff, where water seeped from the rock, creating a curtain of droplets that shimmer in the light. A sign explained the canyon's geology, formed 300 million years ago when ancient seas retreated, leaving sandstone to be sculpted by time. Clara wrote of feeling small, her worries dwarfed by the canyon's ancient scale. The Dismalites were the real magic. I booked a night tour, $20 per adult, required for after-dark access. Led by a guide named Ethan, a biology student who knew every nook of the canyon. As darkness fell, the glowworms appeared, tiny blue-green stars dotting the walls, like a constellation brought to Earth. Clara, in her journal, lay on a blanket, staring up at the lights, feeling like she'd slipped into a dream. Ethan explained that dissimulates are larvae. Their glow a lure for prey, but to us, it was pure wonder. The tour was silent, save for the creek's murmur and the occasional owl hoot, amplifying the canyon's otherworldly peace. Historically, Dismal's Canyon has its own lore. The Chickasaw and Cherokee once used it as a shelter, their presence marked by arrowheads found in the soil. In the 19th century, outlaws hid here, the canyon's depths a perfect refuge. Ethan shared a tale of a Confederate deserter who lived in a cave here, his ghost supposedly wandering the gorge. Clara, ever romantic, imagined meeting him, his story one of regret and redemption. I explored the secret falls, a hidden cascade reachable by a short scramble, and felt the canyon's timelessness, its walls holding centuries of secrets. 4 daytime adventures. I swam the canyon's swimming hole, $5 per day pass, the water bracing but refreshing. Clara, I wrote, floated on her back, watching clouds through the canopy. The canyon offers rustic cabins, $100 to $150 per night. For overnight stays, complete with porches overlooking the gorge. I met a family from Huntsville, their kids chasing minnows in the creek, their laughter blending with the water's song. Dismals is small but mighty, a place where every step feels like a discovery. Practical tips for Dismals Canyon. Admission is $12 per adult, $7 per child. Night tours for Dissimulates are $20 per adult, booked in advance. Visit in spring or fall for mild weather. Summer nights are best for glowworms, May-September. The canyon is private, with a small gift shop and snack bar, sandwiches $8. Cabins are cozy but basic, book early. Nearest hotels are in Russellville, 20 miles, $70-$100/night. Dine at Rattlesnake Saloon nearby, a quirky cave restaurant, burgers $12. Bring water shoes for wading, bug spray, and a flashlight for night tours. Accessibility note. The main trail has stairs, limiting wheelchair access. Budget travelers can skip cabins and day trip packing meals. Check for events like photography workshops, $50 seasonal. Little River Canyon and Dismals Canyon are Alabama's wild heartbeats, each offering a different kind of peace. Clara found freedom in Little River's vastness, her journal filled with sketches of falls and cliffs. In Dismals, she found wonder, the glowworms a reminder that beauty thrives in hidden places. I left both with my own stories. The hawk's cry at Eberhart Point, the glow of dissimulates against sandstone. These canyons, one grand and one intimate, weave nature's grandeur with human history. Cherokee trails, outlaw hideouts, the river's endless carving. If you visit, let the canyons guide you. Hike Little River's trails at dawn, when mist cloaks the cliffs. Swim in Dismals Creek at midday, then wait for the glowworms at night. Talk to rangers, share a sandwich with a local, and listen to the land stories. Bring a journal, like Clara's, to capture what these places stir in you. They'll leave you quieter, fuller, ready to carry their peace home. Practical recap. Spend 2 to 3 days. Hike and kayak Little River, stay in Fort Payne, then visit Dismals for trails and a night tour, camping or cabining on site. Budget, $150-$300 for lodging, $30 to $50 for activities, $40 to $80 for meals per person, 3 days. Spring/fall are ideal. Check weather for rain, which can swell rivers or muddy trails. The road to Chehaw State Park climbed steadily, winding through Alabama's Talladega National Forest, where pines and hardwoods framed the horizon like a cathedral of green. I drove with the windows down, the air crisp with the scent of cedar and earth. But in my mind, It was Clara at the wheel, my fictional traveler, the Birmingham teacher whose journal had become my companion. She'd written of craving heights, a place where she could stand above the world and let its weight fall away. As Cheeha Mountain rose into view, its 2,407-foot peak cloaked in morning mist, I knew she'd found her sanctuary. Later, in the nearby town of Mentone, she'd discover a quieter kind of peace, where log cabins and wildflower meadows whispered of simpler times. These mountain retreats, nestled in Alabama's northeastern hills, were places to pause, to breathe, to feel the earth's steady pulse. As I parked at Cheeha's entrance, Clara's words rang true. Here, the sky feels closer, and so does my heart. Cheeha State Park, centered around Alabama's highest point in the Appalachian foothills, spans 2,799 acres of rugged beauty. Its name, derived from the Creek word cha meaning high place, is no exaggeration. Driving up Cheeha Mountain, I reached Bald Rock Overlook, where the land dropped away into a sea of green ridges stretching to the horizon. Clara, in her journal, stood there, her scarf fluttering in the breeze, feeling as if she could touch the clouds. I felt it too. The vastness of the view, the silence broken only by the rustle of leaves and the distant call of a red-tailed hawk. It was late April, and the park was alive with spring's first blooms, azaleas and fiery pinks and whites dotting the slopes. My first adventure was the Bald Rock Trail, a 0.3-mile boardwalk that's accessible yet immersive, leading to a panoramic vista. Clara walked it slowly, her journal noting the way the wooden planks creaked underfoot. The air cooled despite the sun's warmth. The trail's ease makes it perfect for all ages, but its views, rolling hills fading into blue haze, are profound. I sat on a bench, watching mist curl through the valleys, and imagined Clara sketching the scene, her pencil tracing the contours of a landscape that felt eternal. For a longer trek, I hiked the Pulpit Rock Trail, a 0.6-mile round trip with a steeper climb to a cliff where climbers often rappel, $60 for guided sessions, booked through local outfitters. The view from Pulpit Rock was raw, unfiltered, the kind of place where you feel both small and boundless. Cheeha's history is as layered as its geology. The park, established in 1933 by the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, bears their mark in its stone cabins and observation tower. At the Cheeha Museum, a small exhibit near the park entrance, I learned about the CCC workers, young men who built trails and lodges during the Great Depression, their hands shaping the park's rustic charm. Clara, I wrote, touched the tower's stones, imagining those workers' lives, their labor a gift to wanderers like her. The area was once Cherokee land, and a ranger named Tom shared stories of their trails across these mountains, their knowledge of the land passed down through oral traditions. He pointed out a trail marker, a faint carving on a rock, said to be a Cherokee signpost. Clara, ever the teacher, wrote of teaching her students about this history, connecting them to the land's past. For adventure, Cheeha offers 11 miles of trails, from the Easy Lake Trail, 1 mile, circling Cheeha Lake, to the challenging Odom Scout Trail for miles, linking to Talladega National Forest. I hiked the Cheeha Express, a 6-mile loop with views of waterfalls like Devil's Den Falls, its waters plunging over mossy rocks. Clara, less athletic, opted for a guided wildflower walk, $15, offered spring weekends, where she learned about native plants like the flame azalea and mountain laurel. I joined a stargazing event, free, monthly at Bunker Tower, lying on a blanket as a volunteer pointed out constellations. Orion, Cassiopeia, against a sky unmarred by city lights. Clara, in her journal, wrote of feeling like the stars were whispering secrets, their light a bridge between past and present point one evening. I stayed at the Chiha Lodge, a cozy retreat with stone walls and fireplaces, $120 to $180 per night. Clara, I imagined, sipped coffee on her balcony, watching the sunset paint the mountain gold. The lodge's restaurant served southern comfort food, fried catfish, collards, cornbread, $1.15/plate. And I swapped stories with a couple from Atlanta who'd come to celebrate their anniversary. Their laughter, the clink of glasses, and the mountain's quiet made the night feel like a gift. For a more rustic stay, I camped at Chiha Lake, $25 per night, falling asleep to the sound of crickets and a distant owl. Practical tips for Chiha State Park. Admission is $5 per adult, $2 per child. Open sunrise to sunset. Spring, April, May, and fall, September, October. Offer mild weather and vibrant colors. Summer is warm, winter crisp with occasional snow. The park has cabins, $100 to $200 per night, a lodge, and campsites, $20 to $30 per night. Dine at the lodge or pack a picnic for overlooks. Nearby Anniston, 20 miles, has hotels, $80-$120/night. Bring hiking boots, layers for cool evenings, and binoculars for wildlife. Deer, foxes, and hawks are common. Accessibility note: Bald Rocks Boardwalk is wheelchair-friendly. Other trails are rocky. Budget travelers can camp, picnic, and skip paid tours. Check the park's website for events like photography workshops, $50, seasonal, or CCC history talks, free, monthly. A 40-minute drive northeast, Mentone is a postcard-perfect town perched on Lookout Mountain. Its 1,800-foot elevation offering cool breezes and sweeping views. Clara arrived in Mentone at dusk, her journal describing a place where time feels like a suggestion, not a rule. With a population of just 360, Mentone is Alabama's mountain jewel. Its log cabins, artisan shops, and wildflower meadows exuding a quiet charm. I strolled Brow Park, a clifftop overlook with a valley unfolded below, its patchwork of farms and forests glowing in the evening light. Clara, I wrote, stood there, her hair catching the wind, feeling as if she could stay forever. That Mentone's heart is its community. At the Mentone Art Center, a converted church, I browsed local crafts. Hand-woven baskets, pottery, paintings of the mountain. A shopkeeper, Mary, shared stories of Mentone's founding in the 1880s as a summer retreat for wealthy Southerners escaping the heat. Its name, inspired by a French town, reflects its romantic roots. Clara, ever curious, imagined those early visitors, their parasols shading them as they picnicked by DeSoto Falls, a 104-foot cascade 6 miles from town. I visited the falls, part of DeSoto State Park, where the water roared over granite, mist rising like a prayer. The 0.5-mile trail to the falls was easy, and I pictured Clara sketching the scene, her pencil capturing the water's dance. For outdoor enthusiasts, Mentone offers trails and rivers. I kayaked the Little River, $35 for a half-day rental, through DeSoto State Park, its gentle current winding through forests where kingfishers darted. Clara, I wrote, paddled slowly, her thoughts unraveling with each stroke. The Cloudmont Resort's trails, 2 to 4 miles, free to access, led me through meadows bursting with black-eyed Susans and daisies. I met a local hiker, John, who pointed out a bald eagle nesting nearby, its wings a dark silhouette against the sky. Mentone's quiet trails and clear streams make it a haven for reflection, a place where nature feels like a friend. History runs deep here. Mentone was a Cherokee stronghold before the Trail of Tears, and artifacts like arrowheads still surface after rains. At the Mentone Inn, a historic B&B where I stayed, $100 to $150 per night, the owner shared tales of the town's past, from Cherokee camps to its days as a 19th century resort. Clara, Inner journal, dined on the inn's porch, savoring homemade peach cobbler, $8, and imagining Cherokee storytellers under the same stars. I visited the Moon Lake Chapel, a tiny stone church built in 1937, where stained glass windows cast rainbows on the pews. Its silence was profound, a space for Clara to write of hope and healing. One evening, I joined a folk music night at the Wildflower Cafe, $10 cover, weekends, where locals played banjo and fiddle, their songs echoing Appalachia soul. Clara danced with a stranger, her laughter mingling with the music. The cafe's tomato pie, $12, was a revelation, its crust flaky and warm. Mentone's charm lies in these moments. Small, human, unforgettable. Practical tips for Mentone. No admission fee. The town is open year-round. Spring and fall are ideal for mild weather. Summer brings festivals, winter a cozy quiet. Stay at the Mentone Inn, $100 to $150 per night. Cabins, $80 to $120 per night. Or DeSoto State Park campsites, $25 per night. Dine at Wildflower Cafe or Greenleaf Grill. Entrees $10 to $15. Bring hiking boots, a camera, and bug spray. Accessibility note: Brow Park is flat. Falls and trails have steps. Budget travelers can camp, picnic at free parks, and visit shops without buying. Check for events like the Mentone Color Fest, October, free, or Rhododendron Festivals, May free. Cheaha State Park and Mentone are Alabama's mountain sanctuaries, each offering a different kind of peace. Clara found freedom on Cheaha's peaks, a journal filled with vistas and starlit nights. In Mentone, she found community, the town's warmth as soothing as its dreams. I left with memories of Bald Rock's expanse, DeSoto Falls' roar, and a fiddler tune under Mentone stars. These places, one wild and one gentle, weave Alabama's rugged beauty with its human heart. Visit with an open heart. Hike Cheaha's trails at sunrise, when mist cloaks the peaks. Stroll Mentone streets at dusk, when fireflies dance. Share a meal with locals, listen to their stories, and let the mountains ground you. Bring a journal, like Clara's, to hold what these places stir. They'll leave you renewed, ready to carry their peace forward. Practical recap: spend 3 to 4 days. Hike and stargaze at Cheaha. Stay in a cabin. Then kayak and explore Mentone, camping, or at a B&B. Budget: $200 to $400 for lodging, $30 to $60 for activities, $50 to $100 for meals, per person 3 days. Spring/fall are best. Check for rain, as it can make trails slick.